Do we have any need for executive session tonight? I have got one for contracts. Anybody else? No. So, need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Motion made and seconded. To go into executive session.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Everyone those nice. Do we need to
Is there
amend the
anything you
agenda?
want to put for reference, union?
Contract, personnel contract.
Okay.
Do we need to amend the agenda this evening?
Well, unless like we talked, selectmen's comments move to
Okay.
the end so we can get these people, so they don't have to
All
be
right,
here
we'll take
all night. if
the
they don't want
selectmen's
to.
remarks will be done at the end of the meeting. We need a motion to accept that. I have a motion to
So
accept it.
moved.
It's been moved and seconded.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Select board minutes, November 20th. Are there any omissions, corrections? Hearing none. Any questions on the orders tonight?
Just one thing to point out in the original packet. Tonight is a night that we're processing a lot of the special appropriations that, as you know, were approved as
Right.
part of the budget at town meeting in March.
And I guess I realize those are all approved.
Those are all approved, yeah. Those
But-
are voted on. And we wait to pay them.
I had a couple questions on the orders. I see there's a just under $5,000 overpayment on taxes on the Hitchcock property. That seems like quite an error somebody,
Well,
but maybe there's a
was.
good reason for it.
it's typical this time of year that you get these repayments of overpayments of taxes, because what happens is the town collects the full tax amount, and then there's a reduction based on the
Like the land
homestead
use and all that
exceptions
stuff.
and land use and
Yep.
all that gets sorted out kind of afterwards. And then we're left to return to the taxpayer any overage as a combination of their payment plus the state's payment. So, wouldn't surprise me that Hitchcock's big because they have larger holdings.
Right. And there's, about $1,700 of gift certificates.
Yes.
At Komodos, and what period or what's that all about for?
It's a tradition that's been here for longer than I've been here to give a modest gift certificate to full and part-time employees at the holiday season.
Yep.
This year it's $40 for a part-time person and $75 for a full-time person.
That adds up to that.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
We keep it local in the two local markets.
Right. Yep. There's also the Depot Hill pump station. It totals up to about $7,000. That's all engineering, I believe. And it's my understanding that they put together a plan and it's not going to work. They've got to revise the whole thing.
We're going to hear from John Kiernan about that tonight. He's the engineer who's,
So are we stuck paying this in another batch just
Well,
like it?
he will explain the implications of the overpriced bids that
Okay.
came in over estimate.
Okay. And the water system, I see there's a loan payment of $5,800. It says number 7, so I assume that's the 7th payment probably.
I believe it's the number 7 loan. They're
Okay.
given different designations on our list of debt service items, and that's a $58,000 annual payment we make for the big water upgrade we did
Right.
about 10 years ago.
Right, so we've got quite a few more
Yes,
years to go
I'm
on
sorry
that.
to say yes.
Yeah.
Water
20
loans are often
20 years.
30 or 40 years,
I think
and
20.
sewer is 20 or 30 depending. Yeah.
That's it for me.
Anybody else? All set? That one. This is the appropriations, Hank. That one for the appropriations. That's it for. That's it. Town managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, there's been quite a lot of coverage in the papers about the Pittsford cell tower, or the possibility of one, so I thought I'd give you an update tonight on the latest. I have sent their representative, Janelle Smith, at AT&T, who represents AT&T, the meeting minutes from the Select Board's November 6th meeting, and asked her if she had any update, and she responded, "Hi, John. I spoke with Insight last week about our proposal on Sangamon Road. They are processing the application. We will slow roll the Oxbow Road site pending a determination from Insight about a drop and swap of the existing tower. It's at 80, but we need 150. I presume that means vertical feet. We'd most likely go with a tower replacement if it's determined feasible rather than face opposition on Oxbow Road." So, another proposal that's pending, the town has received notice from Green Lantern Solar, a solar farm developer, of plans to potentially develop a 4-acre, 500 kilowatt solar farm off Cornhill Road on land owned by Rick Colburn. I have, per their request, scheduled a meeting to discuss their ideas with them and the zoning officer on Wednesday, December 18th, and maybe after that I'll have more information about what their planning is and maybe what their timetable might be. As you know, Mr. Chairman, there is a Proctor Policing Subcommittee, and we have met a couple of times now. Right after our second meeting, we finally received a copy of Proctor's current contract with the Sheriff's Office. At the last meeting, the committee generated a sentiment that in order to move forward meaningfully with discussions, we really need to know whether Proctor is willing to commit to a contract of at least 4 years in duration, since the proposal would require the purchase of an additional cruiser and the recruitment, hiring, and training of a full-time officer, presumably through a 4-year federal COPS grant. So we've sent that fundamental question along to the folks in Proctor. Haven't had an answer yet, but we hope to before we decide to invest more time in the effort. I'll mention this in the budget presentation, but I wanted to let you know that following discussions with the employee union, the town has taken the necessary steps to switch health insurance providers from Blue Cross Blue Shield Vermont to MVP Healthcare. The premium for the MVP Gold 3 high deductible health plan represents only a 4.2% increase over current plan costs. I say only because if you compare that to Blue Cross Blue Shield and their 11% increase, we are pleased that we could have kind of a win-win outcome for both the union and the town, and of course the taxpayers. As you know, town meeting is just around the corner, which means that drafting the town meeting warning has already begun. Therefore, on the December 18th Select Board agenda, we will have an item regarding the future of the Lister's office. The town Select Board will need to decide kind of how to go forward on whether A, to simply abolish the office of Listers, as many towns have done, or to perhaps use a charter adoption process to develop some sort of hybrid between a professional assessor and one or more listers to be either appointed or elected. So stay tuned for that discussion at the next meeting. I received word today from our bookkeeper that the town has received its $175,000 in grant funds from VTrans for the recently completed Whipple Hollow Road reconstruction project. I want to let you all know that on Friday of this week, the Lothrop School community will light its memory tree at a ceremony beginning at 8:05 with a brief indoor event followed by the outdoor tree lighting at 8:15. Town officials are invited to attend. Speaking of the holiday, on Wednesday, December 18th at noon, town staff will once again enjoy its annual Christmas potluck lunch here in the town office conference room. Selectmen are invited to attend. If you do plan to attend, please let the assistant clerk and treasurer Liz Willis know what dish you'd like to bring so we can coordinate that. Finally, there will be a staff meeting on the following day, Thursday, December 19th at 9 o'clock, and as always, selectmen are invited to attend.
Thank you. Any questions for the town manager? Do we have any public comment this evening? So we finally got public here. Yes.
Barb
Yes, Barb.
Lansdowne from Elm Street, and I just want to say how much I appreciate the great job John does.
Thank you. He does a good job.
You'll get your $5 later. Thank you.
Sounds like a setup deal.
No coercion.
No. Old business. The state's update on Route 3 traffic study.
Yes, just a brief update. As you know, the Select Board endorsed the idea of asking VTrans to review the safety and the propriety of speed limits on both ends of Route 3 in Pittsford. The state's response has been received recently, and in that they have said they are agreeable to reducing the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit near the Proctor line to a 40-mile speed limit, at least until the point that you round the curve heading out of Proctor toward Pittsford after the ball fields at Teranovich's fields. So that's a good step in the right direction. Unfortunately, they didn't seem to be any particularly flexible on the other end of the road, but we have been invited to participate in a Vermont State Traffic Committee meeting in Barry on, I believe, Wednesday, December 11th at 1 o'clock. So several of the concerned neighbors, along with myself, Butch Shaw, and I think Devin Neary from the Regional Planning Commission will all be going up together to plead the case for even more relief from the state. So stay tuned on that.
Good. Yeah, because right there at Cornhill,
That's right. That's the concern,
That's
that still is
that's a
there.
real bad spot. We've had several accidents there in the past.
But
Maybe not
Butch-
in the last 2-3 years, but we've had some
I think Butch's own
major-
relative has
some-
had
yeah.
problems.
Oh, right.
Some
Yeah.
major accidents right there at that junction, so.
They did recommend cutting the brush back for sight,
Right.
Yes, and that echoes what kind of input you had as
and
well.
that's what I've been harping about for several years.
Right.
Yep.
But maybe if the state can do what they can within their right of way, it might make quite a difference.
Hopefully. All right, new business. Update on budget preparations.
Did you want to pass
Let's-
over
we-
that
I
for our
can
visitors?
pass that, and maybe we'll skip it and do the Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Great, we
Are
do
you
have
folks ready?
Mary
We'll take you,
Cohen
so we
and
won't hold you up.
Tyler Richardson from the Economic Development Corporation as well, to give us kind of an update on what they're doing.
So in the past, thank you for having us give you some update, and as always, of your support of
Great,
our
thanks.
campaign. You're welcome. Often we have a video, you know, it's
Right.
kind of PowerPoint, but we don't have anything live, so we decided just to leave you with information. It might be a little bit easier to recall if you need it. So I'm giving you a presentation, and I'm also giving you a guide that we currently have on our website for people to download. And I'm sorry I don't have. There you go. So if you just follow along here with the PowerPoint. The first thing I want to do is give you a quick little update of what year 2 was like, because now we are in year 3. In year 2, we continue to work on brand awareness, the Real Rutland campaign. We did a lot of new videos. We did as you recall last year, we did, instead of a general video, we did stories of people, and that worked out really well. We had a lot of great feedback. In last December, Mondo Media Works, who's the firm that we were working with, decided that they wanted out of the contract. They had grown a little bit, from my perspective, a little bit too big, too fast. So they needed to withdraw from the contract. So we had, as the steering committee, had to go back to the drawing board. And we created another RFP and had to hire a new marketing firm, which we did. That new marketing firm is called Lyft. They're out of Saratoga Springs. The owner of Lyft is, her name is Abby Andrus, and she is a Castleton graduate, and she has a second home in Killington. She really does get the area. She knows the little stores that we're talking about. She knows, you know, a lot about our region.
The work that was, real quickly, the work that was done with Mondo, all those assets that were created, the videos, the photography, the stories, we were able to still repurpose those and continue to use those going forward. And that's what one thing that the new marketing firm has been able to do, is hit the ground running with all those existing assets in a new and a fresh way.
That's right. They were equally impressed as we were with that work, and were more than willing to continue. And so we haven't really created new, they've used existing things now. And as you can see on this one page, this is what, you know, they're charged with. Create and execute a strategic integrated marketing campaign for Rutland County to position Rutland as a desirable place to live by serving content to target persona and to generate qualified leads by identifying people who are interested in moving to Vermont. So another shift for this year 3 is identifying people who are interested, you know, getting those leads. So we have 2 personas that we are going after this year. One is the outdoor enthusiast. Those are people who really enjoy the outdoors, would like to live in a place that's affordable yet still have all the great outdoor amenities. And then the second one is the urban dweller, that person who is sitting in traffic, who is really has probably visited Vermont, really loves it here, is wondering how they could make it their place to call their home.
And these personas were identified really based on the data that's been collected for the first 2 years, who we've seen interact with various assets that are put out in the world, who we think would have the most impact on our message.
So I'm going to just skip over to the geographic targets. The urban dwellers are really in the northeast, and then the mountain states are where we're finding our outdoor adventure candidates. And those are people who are living in ski towns out west in Colorado or Utah, and the housing and cost of living is just incredibly expensive. So in Arizona and Florida actually are two other just kind of hot pockets, people who are interested in coming. So we started the campaign, we started with Lyft in, I think, in June, and they took a couple of months to develop the strategies and the personas and the plan for this coming year. So we had our first marketing, and it's all been digital, social media. It started at the beginning of September. And one of the first things they did, and remember now this year we want to capture people, we want leads, we want emails. So they created this beautiful guide that you can download on our website if you are interested in moving to Vermont. And so this is what people, if they're thinking about it, this is what they'll get, and you'll get their email address.
Show it to our
Is that
camera person.
LYFT?
L-I-F-T.
It is.
It is I-F-T.
I can look at the company LYFT.
Yes, now that you say that, that's a visual. So they did this promotion, and they said, win a weekend to Vermont. And in that promotion, we did get a lot of leads, but they were kind of warm leads because everybody wants a trip. They were kind of cool leads because everybody wants a trip to Vermont. And that contest was held on Columbus Day weekend. We got, I think, 356 contest entrants during that time. Virtually all of them did download a guide as well. So we targeted our personas and enters to win contest. Okay. If you go a few pages, you'll see this. This is the family that actually came, the Haynes family. And you can read here, actually, I'll read it out loud. This is what they wrote. In order to win the contest, you had to write, why you wanted to come. And this is what she said. We are a family of 4 with 2 young boys. We live in New Jersey, but my husband commutes 2 hours each way every day to Malvern, Pennsylvania, to a technology job. I work in the nonprofit arts sector. Our life is hectic, fast-paced, and slipping by too fast. The boys are growing up so fast, and family time is precious and scarce. When we do find time, we love to get outdoors, to hike, and be near water. I am from Michigan originally, and I wish more than anything that they could experience the outdoors in a bit slower, quieter pace of life. We talk a lot about moving, but don't have a destination identified. We have felt for a long time we are in the wrong place geographically. The timing of finding the PDF and video seems serendipitous as we are exploring job and locations that would improve many aspects of our lives. There are so many obstacles that make state-to-state moves difficult. Rutland County looks beautiful and like it has the outdoor activities I want my boys to experience and the help and advice to make it easier. I would love for my family to see the area and determine if it might be the right move for us. That was exactly what we were looking for. So this nice family did come to Rutland County. And we did send them to the Maple Museum and to Camutas, just by the way. Okay, people back.
The question is, are they gonna move to Vermont?
Well, they're exploring a lot of opportunities, and as Helen and I were talking on the way up here, people don't move overnight.
No.
So, these are all slow processes. So this is just some data. It was for the first month of our new campaign. Next week, we're getting the first quarter's updates. I'm sorry I don't have that information right now. But all of our statistics and our data are improving really quite well. The website is being utilized a lot more now than it has been in the past. And the really great thing is the capturing of the leads. So if you look at this page happens to be current right now. I know that the dates are wrong, but I did update these numbers right now. So far, we have had 24 people go to the website and say, I want to be contacted immediately because I am interested and I want to find job opportunities. There have been 658 contest entrants. And the reason that's so high today is that we just started a new Enter to Win contest. And that's for a Baird Farm gift basket. And so we've already gotten 300 and some odd out of that. And then 997 people have actually downloaded this guide, which is really, I think, extraordinary in the first quarter. These are really good leads.
John, any of you, when you're on the internet, I'm hesitant to give my email. I only give my email if I'm really serious about something, and that's what these folks are doing. So having 1,000 people serious enough to give their personal information is pretty cool.
Right. So along with these good leads, if you look at the ancillary activities, we participate in the state-to-state program, which is the Vermont Department of Tourism. I'm pretty sure we talked about that last year too. where the Vermont Department of Tourism invites people to come for the weekend in certain locations throughout the state. Rutland happens to be one of those. And then capture all the information, and the program is Friday night, we have a community gathering where they can meet local people. Saturday and Sunday, they are tourists, they can do whatever they want. We'll certainly guide them. And then on Monday, we introduce them to, if we have their resume, either a potential job or employer, or the Department of Labor, or maybe they'll take a tour of the Mint, the Makerspace, or they can meet with a realtor and have a community tour. So we've been doing that 4 or 5 times each year. And then we also have the red carpet concierge service. That's, again, that one-to-one touch. If somebody says that they're really interested, we're gonna hook them up with somebody who's local, and that person will then guide them through the process, or give them any help that they want. So again, in the first 2 years, it was really difficult for us to have metrics. We had 2 million impressions or clicks or what, that stuff that had to mean something. It was certainly a start, but now we really are starting to count the families. And since the fall of last year, we have 21 families, 47 people, including 16 children that we can actually count that have moved here. And I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but I do believe that there's going to be a flywheel here. And and as we get better and better at this messaging and targeting, and and through these leads.
And these are built-in ambassadors for us. The folks who are moving here, they're so excited about moving here. They're telling their friends, and they're coming and being a part of this, or of our groups that are trying to get the messaging out there. So the best ambassadors are the ones who choose to they're getting the word out. It's pretty great.
It's true, and they have networked themselves. So there's a lot of young families, and they get together themselves socially. And they've even come to us and said, we'd like a focus group with you. We'd like to tell you some of our experiences and help us do what we're doing even better. So the goal for this year with Lyft is 5,000 new leads, and hopefully a 10% conversion. If we could get 50 families this year, that would be our goal. And so that's what we're working on, and that's what your investment in this program has done so far.
First couple of years is really, a lot of our targeting was internal, and so you'll notice in year 3, or maybe you'll notice, maybe you won't, on social media, you would have seen a lot of it advertised. I saw a lot of it advertised to my personal Facebook page. Not so much in year 3 because I'm not the target anymore. I live here, so they're really narrowing down, honing down into a laser focus who they're targeting, and with these personas and with a real strategic mindset. Pretty great.
Marianne Goulet did a very nice presentation at the Town Managers Conference, giving us kind of an update on how we're doing in Rutland County.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Questions?
Questions we would.
Are you people doing anything to encourage businesses to come here? People that might bring some employment to the area. I mean, it's nice to have a big playground and have places to go riding bicycles and go swimming and all that, but what are you doing to promote any kind of a business, whether it's a cheese factory, a toy factory?
Well, we've been pretty excited to see folks who are moving here who want to start businesses. A lot of the families that are coming here, there's a whether it's a trailing spouse or something like that. We've been able to connect them to the resources at the Chamber, at Medic, at the Small Business Development Center, and what have you, to start the groundwork to getting new businesses developed. So the short answer is yes.
And Tyler, in particular, has been working very hard in strengthening the Mint, the makerspace here, because that is really an entrepreneurial startup, whatever. The other thing that during the State of State program, we talked about this upcoming year theming weekends. So instead of saying just come for the weekend, we could say all healthcare workers, please come for the weekend. And then we could be more specific and intentional with connecting them. And one of the weekends will be entrepreneurs. Come check out what we have to offer as far as services for entrepreneurs. So that's part of it, although this is really about people, because of the need for so many employees for our current employers.
When you had people here to Komodas and the Maple Museum, did you include the Pittsford Trail System?
We,
For hikers?
we this was just that family I was talking about in the weekend, and we directed them in a lot of places. I will say that the Pittsford hike trails were not on my list, but we certainly can
Keep
add
it
that.
in mind.
I certainly will. It's a great asset.
Any
As
other
is our
questions?
18-hole disc golf course.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. And our rec area.
In general, yeah.
Phenomenal. It is. Well, we thank you folks for coming.
Well, we appreciate the support, the continued support. And don't hesitate to reach out if anybody has questions or wants materials about anything that we're doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Update on the Depot Hill Sewer Pump Station project.
Yes.
We've got some
John,
gentlemen here.
John Kearney is here, and there were some materials in tonight's small packet, kind of just giving an update on things with a letter from John, but he can speak for himself better than his letter did.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So, just really a brief update. We opened bids at the end of October. We had an estimate of $700,000, and bid amount, the low bid amount was approximately $200,000 over the budget. So, we went back with the contractor and, got a breakdown of what some of the pricing was. And it turns out that almost all of that difference was related to the pumps and controls that were required down at the transfer station site. We have 2 pump stations on Depot Hill Road. When we did an original preliminary report about replacing both of them, which are in need of repair, we did a cost analysis and identified if we replaced 2 pump stations in kind, right where they were, compared to getting rid of one of them and just sending sewer down to a lower one and putting one in, the cost of putting the extra sewer and force main down there was kind of a balance. It cost just as much as to replace one of the pump stations. So it would have cost the same amount, and you would have only had one pump station, which would have been more, advantaged because there would be less operation and maintenance, less risk of failures and other, things like that. So we made a recommendation, even though the costs were relatively similar in kind with that. And that was at the time we did a preliminary study. We were in the midst of getting a funding application in, and they required a bond vote. So we went forward and scheduled and conducted a bond vote based on the preliminary costs that we put together. Kind of like analogous to an architect saying the cost of a building is going to be X dollars per square feet. And that was based on our assumption that a pump station at this location was going to be relatively the same cost as a pump station at the lower elevation. And when we got into the quagmire of engineering calculations and all the hydraulics, it turned out that because the site at the lower transfer station was at an elevation that required much larger pumps, and there were lots of other items that just made the pump station much larger than the expected, what we were talking about in the preliminary. In normal circumstances, the cost of an actual pump, whether it's a 10 horsepower pump or a 20 horsepower pump, the difference, the cost of actually building a pump station is in the excavation, the tankage, and other things like that. So that really is the difference. The pumps that we assumed, and that was based on projects that we've done, around the state, for the one pump station site is in the vicinity of about $40,000 to $50,000. The quote that was received from the bid for this pump station was $200,000. And that's when we kind of said, we need to stop and look at potentially going back to the original concept of maybe just replacing both of the pump stations in kind might be a better solution. And that's where we stand. We kind of worked with the contractor to develop a couple of different alternatives, never really panned out, and so at this point we met with the Water and Sewer Commission, kind of explained this, and they kind of agreed that going back to replacing the 2 pump stations in kind, because in that case we wouldn't have to do some other replacements, we wouldn't have to do some other infrastructure, and we might be able to reduce the total cost of the project and only do what's minimally necessary, and defer some of those costs into the future, which would tie in with that future Route 7 project. So that's where we stand right now. Yes, for us to go back to the drawing board, it cost the town about $50,000 to do our original design and the first phase of the bid. The funding agency will not pay for a redesign and rebid, and we've estimated that cost at about $15,000 to $16,000. That would have to find another funding source. for that.
If we were to go with the 2 pumping stations, are we cutting ours? I don't want to cut my nose to spite my face. I mean, are we going to have to do something in years to come to make up for it, doing it this way? I mean, we should be looking ahead. If we do anything at all, we should look ahead for maybe some additional capacity, maybe the
Yeah.
life of the projected life of the project, either one way or the other. There must be some differences there, and they.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I want to be completely honest, I think I said that in the letter, that what we're proposing is not an equivalent benefit to the town, that we are providing, improvements that would help Sean and the wastewater department manage the situation where they have now, where the one of the pump stations it's not unsafe, but it is at a point, it's 50 years old, it's starting to leak, it's not the best of conditions. It had been projected that it should have been replaced back in studies back in 2009, so we've been talking about this for a while. In my perspective, especially with the funding sources that you have for this project, we were expecting to have large grant funds available because with USDA or Rural Development, and that did not pan out for some reasons that I'm not completely sure about.
The explanation from USDA was that they've changed their eligibility rules, and Pittsford is not under their new guidance as needy of a town as others that they deal with.
Possibly. So that you didn't receive any grants for this particular project. So in the future, if there were some additional improvements to transmit the sewage from one of the pump stations to the other, that could be done at a later time, and it would be probably, you might be able to be eligible for some additional funding in the future. So from our perspective, providing the improvements now would provide the town what's necessary. Each of those pump stations would be designed with some reasonable element of future capacity in mind. That's a requirement from the state, and it would allow you to kind of look at proposals in the future. And the infrastructure that's there now that would be left in place is old, but it's not 100 years old. There's still life left in it, and be able to work through it. It hasn't been as problematic as the actual mechanical systems that you need to change.
Now,
Baird had a question.
John, correct me if I'm wrong. The upper pump stations, in my understanding, is a major safety factor. So I think one of the things that we really wanted to address was the safety issue for our employees. The lower pump station down at the transfer station really doesn't get a lot of effluent, if you will. So it's not as it's not as though this pump station is being used a great deal. I mean, just once a day.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
Yeah, so it's not as though the lower pump station is critical. It just doesn't have to work as hard.
Now, John, can that be tied in when we do the Route 7 upgrade? Would that be able to be tied into that whole project?
Well, if you're talking about future growth that might take place, people have talked about Pittsford Commons in the future, possibly expanding sometime in the future, and that could easily be addressed when you're dealing with segment 3, which I think
Which
that
is 20,
falls in.
28, 30,
No,
35.
that comes before the village segment.
Oh, okay.
So maybe
Oh, yeah, that
2024,
one.
25.
No, I'm talking when they do the village,
Oh, the village, yeah, the village won't
But
happen until
that's-
2028 or so.
at the earliest.
Yeah.
We're lucky.
If we're lucky, yeah. You and I won't be around. No, we won't see it.
So, yeah, well, Baird has kind of answered,
Answers your question.
well, to some degree, so I guess the question I need to ask is, obviously, the one that's halfway down Depot Hill is the safety concern.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
So, just throwing out, should that be what we fix? Leave, if the other one is, for the time being, is adequate and safe?
I would say, if you said, Sean, we're gonna live with this for another 5 years, 10 years, he would make do. But at this point, I believe he has to replace one of the pumps at this point. The tank that provides the sewage has, pipes have broken in there already. And it was built by a private contractor and just handed over to the town. And,
That's the problem. It's kind of, we don't know.
That's the lower one.
We don't know anything about it because it was given to us by the folks in Pittsford Commons, I
Yeah.
think.
And, he's having trouble, with the electrical panels. They are outdated, they're rusted, and he's having trouble having people come in and work on them when they're failing.
So-
Okay,
It's not,
well, that's-
it's a regular
that's a problem
maintenance
then.
issue.
Okay, well, that was my question, because I thought, if we could put it off for 5 or 10 years and maybe get a grant to put a nice big pump down there that would do everything,
Yeah.
that would be the way to wait, but if we can't, we can't. That's-
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like that.
So back to the planning, the Water and Sewer Commission, they did meet and have extensive discussions with John and kind of kicked the tires of the various options and chose that option 3 to rebid the project with just the replacement in the 2 pump station locales would be much more cost effective to deal with the critical stuff and would allow still for the other components of the project, all of which was approved at the bond vote, to go forward, like improved instrumentation at the wastewater treatment plant as well, to make that a more efficient, energy conscious facility. So that's.
Any other questions?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Not knowing a lot about sewage, I know a lot about pumps and pipes and so forth and so on. That's what I've done for 42 years. These new pumps gonna increase your pressures?
If we were replacing them in kind, that would be, that would be standard. By going down to the lower station, if we were gonna consolidate everything down at the bottom, it was going to be a problem. There was gonna be a lot of head loss going up the hill, which required us to, we would have to increase the pipe of the force main to get up there, and based on that, it required us to have a larger tankage at the site in order to be able to pump that amount. And there were loose soils at the transfer station site, which required, buoyancy, a big concrete tank that wants to, pop out of the ground. So, all of those factors, when we got into the design, those things just got bigger and bigger.
For example, we were gonna have to move 3-phase power down there at no insubstantial cost.
Right.
Well, that's where I was going after, because if you increase your flow or increase your pressure, you gotta upsize your pipe, which means more infrastructure.
Which is why
And if you increase your pressure and the pipe is old, it doesn't usually work well.
Right, and that's why, that's where we are at this point. And just as a means of orders of magnitude, the existing pump station at the midpoint is 20 horsepower. There are 20 horsepower pumps. The ones out down below at the bottom, we actually don't really know, 5, 7.5 to 10 horsepower. If we were doing this consolidation option, we would have been required to put a 75 horsepower pump at the bottom. And that's really how that, and that's really where it was. And
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And there was only one vendor and could supply
at
that?
that point, and again, it took a long time for us to go through this process because we were really trying to figure out alternative ways to work at this location. And in the end, pricing kind of, speaks volumes.
Any other questions?
So
Okay.
thanks very much
All
for
right,
the
thanks
update,
for
John.
For the info.
I know it was important to the Water Commission for you folks to be
Yep.
informed about what the plan was going forward.
Right. Consider adopting the VLCT's proposal on resolution on recreational marijuana.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, in the packet, you've seen VLCT's email talking about their advocacy on behalf of towns and cities throughout Vermont. Their concern has been that if the state legalizes recreational marijuana, which it seems hell-bent on doing in the next legislative session, that the towns should at least be able to recognize some of the benefits of the tax revenues that might flow from that. And so what they've proposed is a resolution that they're asking for all of its member towns and cities to consider adopting, basically saying that after learning from municipalities and states that have taxed and regulated system in place, VLCT has advocated for all the necessary authority, autonomy, resources, and taxing power at the local level. The resolution we are asking all cities and towns and villages to consider, support, and circulate to their representatives in our districts before the legislative session begins in January has been widely known. VLCT advocacy would appreciate a copy of the signed resolution, and as you can see from the reading of it, it basically points out the fact that Vermont may take soon steps to make recreational cannabis legal and to authorize commercial operations throughout the state. And they have a resolution that says, resolved that the town and city of Pittsford, town of Pittsford, only supports legislation legalizing a taxed and regulated cannabis market that addresses all of the local considerations and concerns, and that if the town supports a local, it says that the town supports a local cannabis tax of 5%, with 70% of the revenues going to the host community of those establishments, and the other 30% pooled and redistributed to municipalities that do not host retail establishments, and that the town calls upon the state administration and legislature to provide communities adequate time and clarity in law for local officials and communities to discuss the local implications of such a market, and to update, clarify, and establish local regulations and policies accordingly. So that's the resolution that VLCT's asked the board to consider adopting.
Boys and board, I think we should.
John, where do we stand with the federal?
Federals.
Federal's not for it at all, as far as I know.
That's
No.
correct.
So
No,
are we breeding a scab on the end of our nose? That's my question, and probably nobody has the answer.
No,
I
but
think
this is
this
better
is-
to and make sure that ensure
Yeah,
that
in case it
municipalities
does.
get some tax
Right. We get our tax
backs
share.
Yeah,
back
it isn't
if this does happen,
Yeah,
if it
if
does
it
become
does.
legal.
And if it happens, it's the
We
state
want-
that does it, and
We wanna
we're,
be on the wagon.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, for sure,
Yeah.
yeah, and we certainly, as, in my opinion, as a town, whether you agree with legalization or not is a moot
Right,
issue.
yeah.
Montpelier's gonna do what they're gonna do.
Just
If
as
they
has-
legalize it,
Yeah,
we need to be able to get some of this tax revenue,
That's right.
because there is the potential to possibly have more cost, policing and whatever
Oh,
else.
yeah.
You're gonna have impaired drivers, whatever. So
And
at
Joe,
least
I'll-
this is a way for us to recoup some of
I'll
it.
point out that, of course, Washington State,
Washington.
Colorado, and
Oh,
other states
yeah.
have legalized recreational, and the feds haven't come and arrested all of those
no,
policymakers. The jails would be full.
Wouldn't be a bad
Probably
thing,
the
but-
feds
There
will
was,
accept it when it gets all said and done.
There is talk. There
One
is
town
talk.
actually put, I think, put an amendment in this that they got all of the tax revenue.
But they got
They
all-
weren't okay with the sharing the 30%.
I'm sure VLCT
I'm
has
sure.
advocated what they think they could
Yeah.
sell.
Wow.
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, no, and that's, and
Well, that's because
You
that
know,
30% gets the other towns at least to vote
To
for,
vote,
okay
yeah.
with it,
to
even
vote
if they don't
for
want
it,
to
and if
host.
Brandon was to host it,
Yeah,
there's gonna be
It'll be-
overflow into Pittsford,
Darn
so,
right.
I mean, I get that
yeah.
part of it going to the non-host towns.
So what's the consensus of the board? We sign this?
Yeah, I think so.
I so move.
I second.
Yeah, that's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous.
Did you ever think you'd be voting in support of recreational marijuana, Joe?
No.
He was voting in support
No,
of
it's
taxation
just-
coming to the town,
Amen.
not in the support of
Actually,
legalized
we did
marijuana.
vote
Don't
once
say
on
that.
one issue,
Oh.
not to oppose.
Right.
You hand me, every time you hand me a paper,
I know, I almost did
it's
too. I
like
picked up my
Pavlov's
pen.
dog, you hand me a paper, I sign it.
You better read the fine print.
Yeah, it's fine print, yeah. Remarks about unkept property in litter.
Yeah, Mr. Hiltz is here, but
Yes.
just by way of background, I will point out that there are 3 problem parcels in Pittsford, all of which are located on Fire Hill Road.
Four?
Okay, maybe I'll hear about another one tonight, but I certainly endorse his concern that these are properties that have allowed garbage, clutter to accumulate to the point of not only being unsightly, but probably affecting property values negatively as well. We have, in various ways, been in touch with most or all of those homeowners, and most recently, this spring, sent certified letters, none of which were claimed at the window. So there is a requirement, I think, on our part now to take these letters and have them delivered by the police chief to send the message that we mean business about enforcing our junk ordinance. But Mr. Hiltz can speak to his own concerns. I know you wanted to have an audience tonight.
It's a bond. So you start up Fire Hill Road, past Barnes Crushed Stone, and the trailer that burned down before Teresa's farm
Mm-hmm.
has been replaced. And they don't have a lot, but their yard looks like they just throw their garbage out. It's strewn about everywhere. That's the smallest one. You go up around the corner to Artie Forrest's place, and I have watched him bury piles of I have no idea what. If you go in his yard in the springtime when the snow's gone before the leaves come out, you don't even have to go in his yard. You can stop on the road and there are piles of metal. I took it upon myself and I gave John a copy of all the pictures. I knew when no one was home, and I used my telephoto lens and took pictures close up of their piles. There's refrigerators, there's air conditioners, there's lawnmowers, there's anything you can imagine in his piles, and there are more than 2. There's like 4 piles. And he currently has, I just took pictures the other day, I believe 6 cars that are not registered sitting down by one of the piles. Maybe he plans on burying the cars with the pile, I don't know. And then he's got 3 unregistered vehicles up by the entrance to his house. You go around the corner, you go up past Andy Snyder's house that he's been trying to sell for years, and the first comment people say is, really? We have to deal with that? And if you come in the other way, the first house you encounter is Artie Jr., right across from my driveway. He has currently moved his 5 of his unregistered vehicles down in the field that I believe Teresa owns. I don't believe they're on his property, but I don't know that.
I've
So they're
heard from
off
her
the road
yesterday.
now.
I heard from her yesterday, and she would appreciate correspondence from us letting her know that the junk ordinance limits the number of unregistered vehicles, and asking her whether there's been a trespass, because she believes that her nephew or relative has put them in there without her permission.
And on his proper property, there's at least 4 unregistered vehicles. He's had 4 unregistered vehicles. I have pictures around his yard. Again, I don't think you don't have those, because I got those this spring. And I can put them on a memory stick and send them to you, or bring them to you. But his garbage overflows his bank, and he just keeps throwing more, and the leaves bury it. You go down the hill a little further, and this was one of the bigger concerns, garbage, scraps, whatever at all the other places. It's appalling. But then you go to Robert Stocker's yard, and he's got several buildings that have collapsed that he just piles up. He's got junk in the river, garbage in the river that flows past his house, and he has 3 35-gallon Texaco oil drums that have been sitting in his driveway. I have no idea what's in them for over 5 years, just sitting there. Could be garbage, could be metal parts, I don't know. But they clearly, and John said he was going to call the EPA and could he give them my number, and I said absolutely, positively, without a doubt. I don't know that they never called me.
Okay.
And I am in process of trying to get in touch with this group that will give you the equipment to test streams, IWLGA.org.
Oh, yes, Isaac Walton. Yeah.
And I went to their website, and it's not as easy as just asking for sample kits. So, I mean, that same brook flows behind my house, and then down, so I could test the water behind my house. It's on my property, and it goes down through the field and right past his house. I'm approaching retirement age. I will probably never retire, but I don't want to do what I'm doing for the rest of my life. I just turned 65. We have a plan of 2021 trying to sell our house. The value of our house has gone down the last 2 assessments. And I understand that there's more people paying taxes, and I get that, and rates go down, but when the value of your property goes down, that's a different story. And all we do is the right thing for our property. We cut down the dead trees, so anyhow. It's terrible. And I came to you 2 years ago?
Yep.
With that disc?
Yep.
And nothing has changed, it's only getting worse. I will rent a van in the springtime and ferry you down my road. I would love you to see how disgusting it is.
I think we can all take a ride over that way.
You can't see it now.
Right.
I mean, the leaves are down and everything
Yeah.
else, but there's snow. You wait for the melt that comes Sunday and you'll probably be able to see some. It's supposed to rain again after the cold and then get cold again. Drive down Fire Hill Road and stop at those 4 properties. See how you would feel with them as your neighbors.
Sean Good has been in touch with us also to express his concern, and he did point out that at least for a short time, the Stocker property seemed to be improving, because Jeff had met specifically with him and talked about a plan that seemed to be in place at least for a while, but old habits.
No, nothing has left the yard.
Okay.
More joints.
Baird?
Anecdotally, we do Green Up Day over there every year. And that is the worst section of highway in the town of Pittsford. Guarantee it. It is awful.
Their garbage blows on my yard, into my yard.
Is that draining into Otter Creek?
Yes.
I would imagine it probably does. It has to.
That's a major deal.
It has to.
Absolutely.
You get the state on that one.
Well, we have made that referral, but I'm
Have you?
surprised we haven't
I haven't heard anything from
followed
the
up with
state.
it. I can certainly renew
I
that.
would get hold of the state again, see what they're doing.
Yep. And of course, we do want to get these letters in the hands of
And
these
I
people
would-
to let them know that we take it very seriously in pointing out the violations that they're looking at.
We'll get Chief Warfel on that tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
That'd be great.
Start the process.
That'd be great.
Or before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, if we got somebody on, we got officers on that are on in the evening. Mike. Might catch them at night. But we thank you for coming in, and
Yep.
we'll see what we can do about it.
Spectacular.
Good.
I'm glad I came. It's interesting to hear all the other stuff. And I might be able to help on this. I don't
Okay.
know. I will reach out to the people that I know that build and supply pump houses.
Good.
Don't know that any of them do anything with sewer or septic. Don't know that.
We'll be happy to
That'd be
take
great.
any information and pass it along to John. Thank you.
Yes,
Give me his card.
Yep.
thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me and listening.
Not a problem.
Happy holidays.
Same to
Thank
you.
Merry
All be
Christmas.
well.
Thank you. You
Thanks.
too. Take care.
Baird, you're up next. Village Farm.
Jerry Carbine is here as
Oh.
well.
Yes,
All right.
Jerry
Hi,
Carbine
Jerry.
with the Pittsford Village Farm. I think we're just here on an informational basis to keep you in the loop of what's going on there to some extent. We do have a major, semi-major event planned for June. The Vermont Symphony Orchestra. You may or may not know this, but they travel around the state at the beginning of the season and do free concerts in a bunch of towns, culminating on July 4th, I think. And in this neck of the woods, they have been at the mountaintop for the last several years, and for some reason, that's not going to continue. And so the VSO reached out to us and asked us if we were interested. They toured the property. They loved the property, decided that they would like to have their concert in this neck of the woods there, June 27th of this year. We do have a contract from them that we have signed and sent back to them. And as far as I know, it's not back from them yet, is that correct? But they provided the contract, so, and we didn't change it. We're pretty sure that they would be in agreement with the contract. So my understanding is that these kinds of concerts can generate 800 to 1,000 to 1,200 people, possibly. So we are planning on doing that June 27th. There is the Paramount would be the place that would be held if there was rain or inclement weather that day. The VSL supplies the stage, the sound, the parking attendants. They travel with a couple of 43-foot trailers with all their equipment and instruments. The concerts start at 7:30 in the evening and end with fireworks when they're done. So I think we're just here to provide that information at this point to let you know and see if you have any concerns or comments that.
I gather Chief Warfel and I will be meeting with the Morgans tomorrow morning about some of the details. I know his chief concern had been whether police presence will be requested and whether there'll be any money for that coverage or whether the select board wants to make a policy decision to waive that in this event.
That's what, is that Saturday?
Saturday, yep, the 27th of June. I don't know that we need an answer now, but
No.
we can come back to you as we learn more.
Yep. Yes.
Hi, my name's Barb.
Yeah, Barb.
Still Barb. So I think it'd be an incredible spike in sales, you know, for commuters and all the gas, all our local business. They would love it.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions? Barb?
Just something totally different than on the village farm. We now have two tenants, two businesses that are opening up, two artists. One is a weaver and one is a stained glass art. I mean, they're both from the area. They're opening up Saturday, open house from 2 to 6. So you folks are certainly invited. I hope you do stop by to see, to see what is happening down there. I hope you understand that we are bringing some activity, some vitality to the center of Pittsford. So this does tie into the VSO concert, but this immediate Saturday there is a grand opening for these two ladies that are opening up their shops.
Great.
And Bear, your floor I saw on Facebook, that looks gorgeous.
Yes. That looked very nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
It looks much better than it did 2 months ago.
I'm
Oh,
sure.
well, oh no, I
I'm
know
sure.
about floors that have got 16 layers of coatings on them, yeah, yeah.
And I'm going to switch back up here a little bit. We'll take first response.
Absolutely, yeah. We're pleased to have the
Bobby,
first response
Chief.
represented here because we have had interest in accepting their offer to roll their operation into town government, as you no longer wish to kind of stand alone. We have in the past made an authorization of $25,000 per year, and we are simply interested in, I guess, learning more about what your financial needs are to sustain yourselves going forward so we can give you the right amount of budget authority.
We need to tie you in for July of next year.
Yeah.
That's hopefully would be the switchover date.
I think you've got a handout for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have
this is actually what we had last year. The only thing I don't have on these is, I called Helen to check, because I knew somewhere there was a vehicle replacement fund.
She tells me there's about $28,000 in it.
Is
Yep.
it? Okay.
But that's not listed on this, sorry.
Okay, so that should be added to this then. Okay.
As one of your assets in
Yep.
terms of
Yep.
cash.
Yeah, because we are gonna have to start thinking about that
Oh,
too.
yeah.
There's two there.
Okay. Yep, there is.
Both our vehicles are old, actually. Luckily, I know somebody who can work on them. I just had the Suburban down in the shop. I had to replace all the two brake lines on it because they were rusted. One of them actually broke, and it wasn't inspectable with them on it. And I had to put 4 tires on it too. Now, I don't have the bill for that yet either, but Mike usually helps us out as far as labor for the vehicles. As far as down the road, like I talked to Tom here a while ago, I'm not sure how to go about setting it up for what I would need for a budget.
Well,
I need
instead
some
I-
guidance for that.
I'll get together with you, that's no problem.
So I'm not sure
Well,
what.
I'm happy to help
And
as well.
John, I'll help
This
you
is a
out.
good idea, this is a
Yeah,
good
this-
roadmap as to what your current
Right.
expenses have
Yep.
been, and it doesn't give me too much sticker shock, so that's good
No.
news.
Yeah, we have been doing fundraising on our own. The fry later has really taken off for us. We, just as a side thing, we went through pretty near 500 pounds of potatoes at the haunted house.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of potatoes.
Is it your plan, even if the town did roll you into town government, that you might do occasional fundraisers
Oh, absolutely.
going forward?
Yeah, oh
Good,
yeah.
good.
I mean, right now I'm using
helps.
that money for the building. That
Yeah.
definitely needs rehab.
And we saw the photographs of your
Did
side.
you see the side?
Yes.
Yeah, they did a good job. We got
in our
the stairs
packet.
are on, the sides fixed. He had to put a whole, pretty near the whole sill had to be replaced.
And the stairs also, I think?
Yes,
Yep.
those have been replaced. The only thing he has to do to make them
The railing.
usable now is the railing.
Railings, yeah. And I
He
know-
gave up because the bees were winning.
I don't blame him. I do know that, I know you.
Next year, my plan is to do the front side where the overhead doors are.
Oh.
It needs windows all the way around,
Yeah.
but we'll do what we can one section at a
Some
time.
departments set up kind of a sinking fund toward capital projects like this. So for example, highway and the rec have money that they put aside each year as part of their budget toward repairs and upgrades to their
Right.
facilities. So that could be something we could look at
That's,
as well.
Yeah.
yeah, we'll talk about that,
That
because
would be
we'll
something.
build the windows if they're that bad, we'll build that into the budget for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
into a building fund.
Oh, yeah.
So-
This stuff
It doesn't look to me like it's gonna be anything astronomical.
No,
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 it looks
there's-
pretty good.
I think we're gonna be fine,
They said,
so I'm sure.
in all of this, the biggest thing to me was the insurance. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And once I know exactly the make, model, and year of your vehicles, I can run that by
Oh, I
VL.
thought Sean brought those up. I'm sorry.
I didn't have that yet, but
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get
I
that
actually
for you.
have composed a letter to VLCT asking about different kinds of insurance, so we can know how their charges would be versus what you're paying now as an independent
I would think
organization.
they're gonna be cheaper.
We might do better, I think.
I think they're gonna be cheaper, because you're gonna be under the
You're
whole
gonna be
fleet.
in a big group.
Yeah.
You're gonna be under our group, so it would be,
Should be
under the
cheaper.
town, it should be cheaper.
Do they have a limit on age? You know?
As far as your membership,
No.
or the vehicles, no.
No.
Not,
No,
it's not like a fire truck where you've got
Yeah.
to, no.
Okay.
As long as it's roadworthy and,
Yeah.
like you say, inspectable.
I take that.
Yeah.
I think you mean personnel, don't you, Bob?
No, he, yeah.
Well, as far as how old
He
they
means
are.
age on personnel.
Right, I'm sorry,
to-
yes, the age of people that can drive. if
They can
you're under
drive?
That insurance.
I
oh,
would have, no, 18.
we
I
have
believe is-
Bruce Babcock driving truck at 66,
Yeah.
67.
They can drive at 18.
Yeah, okay, well, I got a couple young guys.
Oh, 18 and up. We ran them.
Well, they gotta be
Able to-
16, Bob.
Yeah. No,
Really?
They do have to have a senior license.
They might be able to handle the tractor in the backyard, but
As long as they got a senior operating license, we're covered. Yeah. Okay.
I guess.
Like,
Anything else I can answer?
Any questions from the board?
No,
if I have any follow-ups, I'll be in touch with you, but thank you, this is a big help.
Yeah, this is a big help.
Call me
and
at the shop and,
Okay.
you know, be there.
I know
He's gone right
we've
now.
heard from the attorneys as far where we stand.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
far
there's
as-
no impediment to us
impediment
simply
to just
rolling them into
rolling
the
them in.
town's operations.
And as far as the property and all that stuff. that
Yeah,
we're-
at some point in the spring,
We
we
need
would
to-
do
we need to
a
do
deed
that.
over of your building to the
Yeah.
town, but that's easy easy work to be done.
So I think our target is shooting for July 1st.
Yeah, July 1st.
Is a takeover date.
Yeah.
So,
I honestly don't know where that stuff is.
Okay, well, we can research that.
well, we
It's
can
all
res-
on the land
we can
records.
research it here.
And we've already spoken with the Carters, and they have no objection to the transfer because it's still being used for a public purpose, same public purpose, so.
But we just need to get going on that so that everything's in place
Yeah.
for July 1st.
Yep.
Then we'll be ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Great,
thank you
thank you,
gentlemen for
guys.
coming. Yeah, you can stay around if you want. Let's see.
Hot in here.
Yeah, it does get warm in here. Let's do the snowman's request. We'll do this real
Sure,
quick.
sure.
It's the same as last year and every year.
Yeah.
To approve the roads for
Every year they
snowmobiles.
are courteous enough to ask for permission to
Nothing's
use the
changed.
roads, nothing's changed.
I went over the roads myself. It's all the
I'd
same.
make the motion, we give them permission.
Second. Yeah.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that was quick. Unanimous.
They
Review
mispaid.
lister's application.
Yes, as I mentioned last time, just before last meeting, we did get a written letter of application from a Mr. Faith in town who had expressed interest in serving in the lister's office. He emphasized that he had a little bit of real estate background, but never had, of course, served as a lister before or worked in a lister's office before. In the past, we've had one other applicant who had some pretty good credentials, but given the lateness of the
I think,
year
yeah,
and the fact that we've lost all three of our original listers and had to kind of jerry-rig an operation with a professional assessor and a
I
former
don't know if we want to
lister.
rock the boat right now until.
Given that town meeting is only in March,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to make much sense to bringing somebody on board.
Well, not when we're gonna
No, if
possibly
we're
put
proposing,
next meeting, put
Yeah.
a resolution
Right,
in
to-
to abolish the listers.
I would say let's
I mean-
kind of table it for now.
I will give him a polite thank you,
Oh,
but
yeah.
let's keep
Yeah.
our options open for the
Yeah.
future if there's still listers to be.
I think that's
Recruited.
consensus of the board.
Town meeting should decide which way we go.
Yeah,
Right, that's right.
exactly.
That's what we're.
And you'll be deciding before then what you would like to propose.
Yes. Update on the budget.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll just give a brief update if I could, and then I know Hank has some remarks you wanted to make, and I think Dave too. The third draft of the proposed budget reflects some changes based on new information. Health insurance line items throughout have been modified to reflect the 4.2% increase in premiums by switching carriers from Blue Cross to MVP, again, as opposed to the 11% we were looking at if we had stayed with Blue Cross. There is a 2% town manager salary adjustment based on a COLA, cost of living adjustment. VLCT dues have increased by $200 over the prior year. BLSG Mosquito District dues have increased by $1,245, which is a 3.6% increase over the current year. NIMRIC, our computer accounting software firm used by Pittsford and the vast majority of other Vermont towns, has has increased its annual assessment to Pittsford as well as other towns by $3,400. It's a big jump for them to try to deal with their cybersecurity. Of course, that's the hot topic of the day. They're trying to convert a lot of their holdings into the cloud, which is quite an undertaking, and so they've had some big capital costs associated with that. On the other side, the good news is that we recently received VLCT insurance premium quotes, and all of those coverages are the same or even lower, particularly workers' comp, which can be expensive, given that we're finally coming out of a bad 2 or 3 years of experience with some fluke accidents here in town, with the Lister secretary falling and breaking her hip and other things of that nature. So those are working themselves through the experience modules, as they like to call them, meaning that they're charging us less for workers' comp going forward. So based on that, the updated figures are that even with a no tax increase budget, there would be a general fund deficit as of today of only $15,490. There's a tentative highway fund surplus of $6,470, meaning that if you combine those two together, what we're looking to make up in the future drafts of the budget is about $9,019 in order, again, to achieve a no tax increase combined general fund, highway fund budget. Potential areas of cost savings include the $50,000 we appropriate every year to the Highway Department's Bridge Replacement Fund. That was originally created to create the local match toward the eventual cost to replace Kendall Hill Road Bridge. The bridge replacement program provides that the state would pay 90% and that the local town would pay 10%. Of course, that could be a several $million project. That's why we've been putting money aside each year. There's a possibility of re-examining the proposed $16,100 increase in the Highway Department's paving budget that's been proposed. We even have modest savings of about $537 to eliminate the use of pagers for highway and rec personnel, since cell phones are really the ones that are being used by these personnel, and pagers are largely redundant, kind of yesterday's technology. Beneath that, I have a paragraph that talks about the loose end, which represents Pittsford First Response, but we've heard from them tonight. I can plug in their figures into the budget and give you an update at the next meeting. Another question, again, is whether we'll want to pursue the idea of getting a little bit more aggressive on truck replacement times. The general trend has been among towns to go from the 10-year cycle to the 7-year cycle. Obviously, that would mean more money put aside each year toward the equipment and vehicle replacement fund, but probably not a one-for-one, because if you're replacing vehicles quicker, you're also probably getting a better trade-in on the older vehicles, and you're seeing less repair costs. So that is something to consider. And we will, I hope to have the highway foreman here for the next meeting to kind of discuss that possibility with you all. With that, I'll hand it over to Hank, who I think has some suggestions.
I gotta pass you guys out a budget for next year. And it appears that sand and salt have been the major cause of
where we've been.
Of our balance in the highway fund being down to $16,000. It's pretty low, and that scares me. So what I did is I went through and I figured out some cuts, which we can readjust these at any point. But I figured we cut paving 16.1, cut the bridge fund 25, and $500 for the pages would give us total cuts of 41,600. Take off the general fund deficit that we're running this year, gives us 14.2
surplus.
Of surplus, and you add the surplus of $16,000, gives you $30,200, which still isn't very much. So if we added 2% to the highway budget, that increased 22.5, which would give you a total of 52.7. If we added 3%, that would be 33,700, which would give you an increase of 63,900. Now, if we took some of the surplus, we got 111,300 for surplus in the general fund. If we use that to pay off the 27, it'll leave us a new general fund surplus of 85,600. And we add the 2% increase, will get you down to, will bring 80, the highway fund, and if you added a 3% increase, it'd bring you to 91,300. I forgot one thing. I missed the $10,000 surplus for the highway fund. So these bottom numbers.
So what increase?
You could add $10,000 to that.
So
the bottom two.
101,490.
Yeah.
Plus 10,000.
But that was based on the figures we got in the budget, John. You got some different figures.
Right,
tonight.
a little bit of an update, but we can certainly talk about incorporating the broad ideas you've got there.
I mean, I certainly would agree with the pagers, because
God,
if they're not used to them, I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned cutting the bridge fund because we ended up borrowing out of the bridge fund for our paving projects. And do we have, and I realize this may be next year, it may be 15 years before they do it, but do we have a rough idea?
We don't. What we're trying to do now through Omia's lobbying and the town's lobbying at the Regional Planning Commission is to try to get this project from a pre-candidate status to actually in the book with some sort of date commitment to do the,
And I'm
do the
only,
work.
Dave, I'm only proposing a 1-year cut.
No, I know.
But we have used it as a piggy bank in the past,
Yeah.
as you say.
Yeah.
We've also need to account for the fact that the 20% going toward the salt shed will also come out of that, because the
Well, that-
policy has been to use that fund
Yeah.
for the local match on highway projects.
Now, and
grants.
how much money is that?
That's
But-
gonna be in the neighborhood of $130,000, because the project,
Project
total
was
cost is about $560,000 now.
No, remember one way
Salt
out.
shed.
Are you serious?
Yes,
Yeah.
Laws Ag has got almost the identical building we're putting in. It cost them $60,000 or $70,000 to put it in.
what we've got in the engineered project, which is a requirement from the V-Trans funders, is site work, a asphalt pad,
Oh, okay, you've got
engineered,
asphalt, okay.
engineered
Yeah.
blocks. People call them waste blocks, but they're specially made for a 6 or
For
8 foot tall wall
Yeah.
with the structure on top, with the fabric on top of that. So that's, I think, the bulk of the costs associated with it.
Yeah, well, that's the difference.
The project
being
started out at
the
around,
asphalt.
what,
Oh, and on the back of
300,000?
Sean Erickson's
Yeah,
envelope,
no.
it was maybe a couple $100,000
Yeah.
project.
And then it ballooned.
As Joe will remind us, whenever you
Yeah.
get state grants, you have to do it the state's
You gotta
way.
do what
Well,
they
no,
do.
but anyway,
Yeah,
it's
anyways.
neither here nor there at
But
that
yeah,
point.
I do want to let you know that there is
That's
a
why.
demand on that fund for that purpose as well.
So, I mean, I guess, and I'll bring this up now. You've got, and maybe every town does this, all these appropriations, I mean, you're talking $68,000. I realize 25,000 of it is to Pittsford First Response, but there's an awful lot of things here we're giving an awful lot of money to, and I question whether, not that there's anything wrong with these organizations,
Sure.
but personally, and this is personally, I don't feel we should be taking people's tax money and giving it to some organization. That is those people's choice.
I will remind everybody that at the
That's-
town meeting
yeah,
7 or 8 years ago,
They voted all
we
that.
presented all of the
Okay.
options,
They're voted in.
They vote them in every year.
all those line
Yeah, we
items
voted
one
in.
by one, and after about 3 or 4
Yeah.
of them, somebody made the motion, which was
We just do
unanimously
it.
approved, to just approve
Just
them all
approve
in
them.
blanket, in blank.
It's all been
So
approved by
that's,
the voters
that's,
at town
that's the
meeting.
voter's choice.
Okay, now, do they get to choose at the next meeting, or is that?
It's always up to
Every
you whether
year.
you want to ask them to make another line item call on those special appropriations. We could try that exercise again, I don't know,
Well, I don't know, it's an awful lot of money.
I agree.
And sometimes, Dave, they come back around and ask for a little increase. You haven't seen that, you haven't been
Yeah,
involved
we haven't
long
had any
enough.
increases for a while.
But you'll see, not every year, but quite often there'll be one or
Yeah.
2 or 3 that ask for 5%, 10% increase. And it goes through and they eat it right up.
Okay, yeah.
Not once since I've been on the board in 19,
Has
almost
anybody
19
been
years, has
refused?
anybody been refused?
Nope.
in special
Okay, well, I
appropriations.
just, you know,
Yeah.
that's my
Well, it's a good,
my thing, I guess,
no, it's a good question.
you know. 'cause
You got a
it's,
good
again,
point,
Good
Dave.
point.
It's, and I have to wonder how many of these are overlapping too.
We do get reports which are then published in the town
Yeah.
report, giving
They
us
all-
their update on their latest activities and why they need
They'll all be in the
funding.
town report, most all of them.
Okay, all right. Yep.
I know someone brought up that concern at last town meeting,
Yeah.
if there was some overlap on a certain
And
service, but there was some.
There was.
Yeah, the Vermont Family Network and whether that
Yeah,
was
there was
something.
someone there though to
There
kind
was,
of talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
specifically what they did. or-
Right. Did I hit everything? I'm gonna look through here. I think Selectman's comment.
Yes.
You ready for that?
I'm ready for it, yeah.
I'm not sure everybody's gonna be, and if at any point in time
If
you
it's-
think we should discuss this in another venue,
If it should be
tell me
executive
to
session?
shut up.
Can I bring up something?
Sure.
This is the first time I heard Ben doing one of these things.
Yeah,
Um,
shoot.
And I'm here for Pittsford Auto.
Huh?
And I have a concern, a safety concern, about parking. We have an incident down there where, these big trucks like to park on our side of the road. It makes it very difficult for us, our customers to exit our business. He's also been, the truck's been involved in an accident there this summer. They ripped the mirror off the truck. It's at an intersection where they like to pass on the right there. We've had accidents there. So I'm just looking to see maybe if we can get a no parking sign on that side of Route 7, or if there's any reason why we can't have a no parking sign.
It's a state issue, it's because Route 7 is a state road.
I brought it up to Brad Keith, and he says the first thing you gotta do is bring it up to the select board.
Yep. Well, Brad should know better, because he works at V-Trans.
Yeah, he said go to the select board.
I'm sure we wouldn't have a problem with it, but.
Well, V-Trans in the past has
V-Trans.
told us what we can do with our suggested
Yeah, they-
signage on their road.
Yeah.
Well, we could always ask, we could always make
can
the
ask,
point.
We can ask, I mean, we'll,
Yeah.
We're happy to ask them.
But don't hold your breath.
He sent me here.
Yep, we'll ask.
Yep, no, I
We'll ask.
appreciate it.
Yep.
So you're saying trucks park
Right there,
at or
right
near
there,
your
there's parking.
place?
Oh, yeah,
Right
they're-
in front of Blanchard's mailbox.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, they're, I think they're going across the road to
Keith's?
Keith's.
Sure
Right,
they
and then
are.
So
I'll
they-
sit there and have lunch.
Yeah,
Well, no, it's, yeah, and I can, it's dangerous.
just-
yeah.
And
It is.
I've had words with the driver.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is it just
and-
one specific
Oh, I
truck
know,
all
I
the
think-
time?
Yes.
Was it one guy all the
And I
time?
have
Well,
pictures
yeah.
here if you'd like to see him.
I think
You
we
guys can
do.
keep
What you need to
Yeah.
do, what you need to do is park a car at the front end of the
Yeah.
truck and the back end of the truck, so they can't get out, and they'll put a.
Let him know how it feels.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Pictures, it's got the truck actually leaning against the telephone pole, which
Oh, jeez.
I've called Green Mountain Power.
Oh, wow.
Leaning against the
They can't-
telephone pole.
Yep.
Oh, because of
To
the
the
slope?
Yeah, check that out.
And the truck is,
Oh, wow.
Very close, under
Oh,
the
wow.
flag.
the last picture will show you that it's actually touching the pole.
Okay.
I've taken
Oh, my God.
pictures several times. And it's tearing up the shoulder of the
Oh,
road.
sure it is.
Which there's a drain right there, so there's asphalt being broken
Oh, my
up,
God.
and it's plugging the drain. We've had to go out and clean up the drain, so.
So that's of concern to us,
And if-
that's our drain, no doubt. Yep,
Okay.
and damage to the road, which they should be more concerned about.
Yeah.
Yet the state just shut off down by the post road where there was quite a pull-off there.
Yeah,
They blocked that totally off. You could get 3-4 trailer trucks in
I
there
know
if you
it.
need
Oh, they
to.
blocked that off?
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't paid any attention,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can check that out.
Yeah, cause there was,
I think it's a shame.
It is.
well, the guy used to sell corn there, there was
Yeah.
always,
Oh.
Lenny was there for years with his hot
Right,
dogs.
right,
They
right.
filled
And
it
when
all in.
Irene came through,
Yep, they filled it in.
that's only
Block
been
that right
last
off.
couple
So
Yeah.
today,
months.
just before.
Thank you,
that.
what's your name, sir?
George Welch.
George Wells, thanks for letting us know about this, George.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Yeah, down by the post road is totally ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so, and John, maybe you can answer this. I saw it in one of the emails. Why did we pay DNF paving way, and I mean way,
Yep.
over their bid price?
Yep. It's not a bid price for the job, it's a bid price on the tonnage that
On the
we
tonnage.
use. So we set out in our request for bids, our estimate of the amount of material and the amount of linear feet of the project and how deep we wanted the project. It's not unusual for bids, for actual costs to be above or below depending on how accurate our internal estimate has been. So I don't know of any reason to suspect that they didn't put all the asphalt down that they billed for. In fact, we do get daily slips, which we compared at our bookkeeper's office. She looks at the bills coming in and confirmed that all the asphalt that we paid for was in fact put into the ground. I will point out that it's probably harder to accurately estimate paving for a reconstructed stretch of road than it is for simply shim and overlay, where you have a better idea of exactly the widths and exactly how much depth you need to do the job. But no, I got the same input from Pat, and there's really, in my mind, there was nothing to be done, only because DNF did the work which we asked them to do, and they did it at the price per ton that they advertised.
Okay, so it was more tonnage put down.
That's right, that's right. We always put the estimates in the request because we're curious about, you know, again, how close our estimates are, and in this case, these
We're
are
off.
big projects, deep reconstruction work, but as far as I can tell, the project was done properly by DNF with the amount of their per tonnage being honored.
So, all right, so
Yeah.
you're saying that we told them how many tons we thought we would need?
No, we have an in-house estimate that we did. I think this is how this works. We did an in-house estimate of what we expected the project to cost. That's the basis on which we submitted our grant application, for example, to V-Trans,
Right.
which was maxed out at the 175. That's all they will
Right.
ever
Yeah,
give,
no, I
regardless
understand that
of how
part.
big the project is. And then they come in and give us the material to the depth we specify in the bid. And we, I think, specified 6 or 6.5 inches on Whipple Hollow with a base coat and then a top coat. And that's the same thing they did also on West Creek Road. The only deviations I can see were that on the West Creek Road, there was a bit of extra work at the intersection with Depot, just to give a better transition from Depot to West Creek Road. That was only about 10 or 15 foot width, which might account for some additional tonnage, but not much, not much.
Okay, but you still haven't quite, so we're telling them we got X
Yeah.
number of feet of roads,
Yeah.
and we want 6 inches of pavement, and that's what we give them.
That's right.
We don't give them a tonnage estimate.
No, that's right.
Okay,
That's right.
all right,
That's
no,
right.
because you were alluding that you were giving them a tonnage, and everybody's got different tonnage, so.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Okay.
And that's why when we look at the bids, we kind of disregard those estimates, because everyone's gonna estimate it a little bit different. What matters is how much asphalt they put down. That's how,
Okay.
that's how
All
they
right,
go.
well, I'm new to this, so.
No, I appreciate the question. I anticipated that it would come up, because those are eye-popping numbers, I agree.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
Well, that's the way we bid it, so
Yep.
much a ton.
Apples to apples.
Apples to apples.
Yeah.
Yep.
When the
Oh,
tonnage
yeah.
runs over,
And then we're stuck.
we're gonna take it on the chin.
yeah.
Yep. Unfortunately.
I don't know, has it ever run under? That's
We have had
Yeah,
under.
we have.
We
It
definitely
may,
have.
it
It definitely
sometimes,
does.
Couple of years we ran under.
probably more have to run over than
It's
it is
usually
under.
Well, no, they said it a quarter of an inch more, the whole length.
Don't take
just,
much.
you know.
Yeah, depending on the shape of the
Yeah, how much
subsurface.
the road.
Well, yeah, if you got a big dip that you're covering over.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, but, yeah, okay.
We got one more year on our bond there, we're paying
We're
off.
done.
No, we're done.
Well, that is
This
done.
this
is it.
fiscal
This
year,
is
we're
it.
done.
We're done. So
So
now we're gonna have.
future
We
budgets
got
will
that
not have
80 or what,
Well, you
80?
could
Well,
argue that we have it or we
we
don't
don't.
have
Well,
it,
if
but
it's
we've
in the
already
budget.
managed
To-
to reflect the fact in the next budget process that that's not gonna be an ongoing debt.
Right.
It's zeroed out.
Done.
So
zeroed
this budget that we're working on now.
Yes.
Right.
So that's why, as I see some little increases here and
Yeah.
there, I'm not seeing it in the total,
That's
because
right.
No,
that
because
chunk
it's
is
done.
coming out.
It's,
Coming out with
it's absorbed by
Right.
these
Okay,
additions.
because I wondered how you were creatively.
Yeah,
framing
it
it.
was- It's a little bit,
Well,
it was a
you
little
know,
bit
I
easier.
didn't sit down with a calculator, but I did it in my head,
Yeah.
and it's.
It's a little bit easier than it ordinarily would be, no question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we've got that extra
Cushion.
cushion.
It helps us this
Yep.
year, makes it look better.
Yes, it does.
Well,
But-
Makes it easier to keep it where it is.
All right, so that was your select board remark?
What was our?
That was my select board remark, yes,
No
it was.
problem. No, that's
Well, and I
fine.
did,
No,
and,
that's
and
fine. No,
I had no
that's good.
idea what the answer was,
Yeah, no, it's
and
fine.
I didn't figure we needed a whole room full of people. It was,
No, that's good.
you know, it's easier
I
amongst
guess that
us.
conducts all of our business for open meeting, and we will adjourn and go into executive session.